Hi everyone. Today I'll be conducting a code review for a weight tracking app that I started developing over a year ago. This app lets users input their weight, set a target weight, and monitor their progress. The aim of this review is to ensure the code is efficient, maintainable, and of high quality. Code reviews are a crucial part of the development process because they help us find errors early, improve the quality of the code, and share knowledge among team members. In this session, I'll be using a detailed checklist to evaluate the code and provide constructive feedback. I'll examine each class individually, starting with the database helper.java class. For each class, I'll use the checklist to cover aspects such as software engineering and design, algorithms and data structures, and database interactions. Let's begin with the database helper.java class. We will evaluate how well the database helper.java class aligns with the design of the weight tracking app and its requirements. When examining the database schema, we find that the database helper class effectively defines the database schema with three key tables: all users, user weight goal, and user weight info. Each table is meticulously crafted with the necessary columns and constraints to facilitate seamless user authentication and weight tracking. Moving on to the responsibilities of the database helper class, we see that they span a spectrum of database-related tasks, including database creation, user data insertion, tracking weight goals, and recording weight data. These functionalities are thoughtfully encapsulated within the class, ensuring a cohesive and organized structure. In terms of consistency with design patterns, the class follows established norms for implementing an SQLite database helper in an Android app. By extending the SQLite OpenHelper class and overriding essential methods like onCreate and onUpgrade, the class effectively manages database creation and version upgrades with precision. Additionally, there is a high degree of organization and coherence in the class. The code demonstrates consistency in style with well-named variables, clear method definitions, and appropriate use of comments for clarity. Furthermore, the formatting of the code appears consistent throughout, enhancing readability and maintainability. Regarding adherence to coding standards, while the class generally follows best practices, there's an opportunity to enhance the code by leveraging external reusable components or library functions, particularly for handling SQLite database operations. For instance, considering the use of the Room Persistence Library could simplify database transactions and reduce boilerplate code. Furthermore, incorporating external libraries for date formatting could offer more advanced date and time manipulation capabilities. Overall, my assessment suggests that the database helper.java class exhibits traits of being well-structured, consistent in style, and consistently formatted, which contributes to its effectiveness in managing the app's database operations and facilitating its core functionalities. Next, we'll look for repeated code that could be condensed into a single procedure in the database helper class. Upon reviewing the code, it appears that the insert goal data and insert weight data methods have similar structures and share some common lines of code. Specifically, both methods obtain a writable database instance, create a content values object, and insert data into their respective tables. To condense this repetition, we can create a generalized method that accepts parameters for the table name, content values, and any additional data specific to each operation, as can be seen in this updated version. By introducing the insert data method, we've condensed the repeated code into a single procedure, enhancing code maintainability, and reducing the risk of errors. This refactoring ensures that future updates or modifications to the insertion process can be made in a centralized location, promoting consistency and efficiency. As we progress through the review, it's essential to ensure that the changes made to improve the Database Helper class are reflected in other parts of the codebase. In particular, we've refactored the Database Helper class to streamline database operations and enhance code maintainability. Now let's visit the signup activity class to verify that it remains compatible with the updated Database Helper class. The changes made in the Database Helper class, such as consolidating database insertion operations into a single method, should simplify the interaction with the database and improve code readability. After reviewing the signup activity class, it's evident that there are necessary adjustments to be made to align it with the updated Database Helper class. Here is an updated version. We've added an import to be able to use content values. Also, we've formatted the code to conform with standard practices. Finally, we're using content values to insert the data. Now, the signup activity class continues to effectively handle user signup functionality while leveraging the improved database interaction methods provided by the Database Helper class. Next, we'll move on to reviewing another crucial component of the weight tracking app. Let's examine the login activity class to ensure that it remains consistent with the overall design and functionality of the app, considering the recent changes made to the Database Helper class. As you can see, Login Activity Java has some to-do lists. There are other necessary updates to keep the app running correctly. Here is an updated version of the Login Activity class, which takes care of the to-dos. Also, we've formatted the code to conform with standard practices. There is a new method, checkUserGoalExistence, which determines whether the user has set a weight goal. This method interacts with the Database Helper class to check for the existence of a goal associated with the logged-in user. Depending on whether a goal exists or not, the Login Activity class will redirect the user to the appropriate activity, either weight activity or goal activity. Upon implementation, this method will enhance the functionality of the Login Activity class by dynamically redirecting users based on their data availability. This adjustment ensures that the Login Activity class remains consistent with the app's design and functionality while leveraging the capabilities provided by the Database Helper class. We can also update the Database Helper class with a new method, checkUserGoal. This method lets us execute an SQL query to select rows from the user weight goal table where the email column matches the provided email. It checks if any rows are returned using cursor.getCount. Then, if the count is greater than 0, it means a goal exists for the user, so it returns true. Otherwise, it returns false. Now, let's examine the goal activity class to ensure that it also remains consistent with the overall design and functionality of the app, considering the recent changes made to the app overall. In this original version, the permission manifest.permission.post notifications was requested, which is incorrect. We can also see the original uses a magic number 101 for the permission request notification. The make notification method allows the app to create and display notifications, enhancing the user experience by providing feedback when a weight goal is achieved. In this updated version, manifest.permission manifest.postNotifications has been replaced with manifest.permission.accessNotificationPolicy, which is the correct permission constant for accessing notification policies. The updated version uses a class-level constant permission request notification as an identifier to label the function argument, so a magic number is not being used. This makes the code more readable and maintainable. Also, we've formatted the code to conform with standard practices. These changes ensure that the goal activity functions correctly and adheres to best practices for permission handling and notification management in Android apps. The only other classes to look at are resultsActivity.java and mainActivity.java. The original resultsActivity.java file is very basic and does not contain any logic to display data. It needs to be enhanced with the necessary code to fetch and display the user's weight and goal information from the database. In the original mainActivity.java package, declaration is correctly specified. The required imports for an app compat activity are correctly included. The class declaration is standard and correct. The onCreate method correctly initializes the activity and sets the content view to activity main. Some improvements can be made to mainActivity.java. Adding comments to describe the purpose of the mainActivity class would improve readability and maintainability. Although not critical for a simple activity, it's generally good practice to handle saved instance state for better state management in case of configuration changes. Throughout this code review, we've delved into key aspects of software engineering and design, ensuring the weight tracking app adheres to best practices. By addressing design patterns and coding standards, we've maintained consistency and readability across classes, enhancing maintainability. The introduction of a generalized insertion method in a database helper class demonstrates our commitment to efficient code reuse and scalability, aligning with principles of good software engineering. In terms of algorithms and data structures, our focus has been on optimizing database interactions, streamlining processes, and condensing repeated code segments for improved performance and maintainability. Our detailed examination of the database schema and interactions within the database helper class emphasizes a dedication to robust database management practices. By incorporating these enhancements, we've not only bolstered the app's functionality and reliability, but also laid a solid foundation for future iterations and expansions. Thank you for joining this code review session. I hope you've gained valuable insights into the intricate workings of the weight tracking app and the principles guiding its development.